Wicker.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the bipartisan spirit of this hearing today, and I certainly appreciate the words of the chair of this committee. Madam Chair, you're absolutely right. Runoff puts more oil pollution in our waters. Tankers put more oil pollution in our waters. Seepage is responsible for more. One company takes shortcuts, engages in what I believe will be proved to be gross negligence, and causes this 1 in 42,000 event. And if it's not enough that the residents of the Gulf states and the citizens of our nation have to experience the consequences of this explosion, the families, of course, the loss of life, and the economic devastation that's been caused by this. If that's not enough, then here comes the government, our own government that we pay taxes to, that is supposed to be encouraging job creation. And in defiance of their own panel, in defiance of 2 decisions by a federal court, does an end run, in effect, around the considered opinions not only of a federal district judge, but also a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals panel, and says we're just going to do it anyway, and we can do it by taking another run at it and changing our pleadings, and apparently they're able to get away with it. You know, back when I was a very young man, we had the 3 Mile Island incident in Pennsylvania, and an overreaction to that cut off nuclear power development in the United States. It allowed the rest of the world to get ahead of the United States in that regard. And we're just now coming back to the point where we can be realistic in the United States about joining France and other Western European countries in using nuclear power for part of our energy. It's the same overreaction by the federal government. And I would say to the administration, listen to your own experts. Listen to the facts, as the chair of this committee has so articulately pronounced them today. And let us have our jobs back. It is very conceivable that this action by our own government will turn out to have more economic devastation than the spill itself. Wouldn't that be adding insult after insult after insult to injury for our own government to take this action against the families, the workers, and the economy of our region? I appreciate all the panelists. I realize we had a panel before us that testified also. I particularly appreciate Ms. Nastasi coming on behalf of the Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce today. This is really the 3rd major hit that our economy has had in 5 years. Isn't that a fact, Ms. Nastasi?
Absolutely. Yeah. And Katrina, which, as I stated, we were looking forward to being back this year. This was going to be our year, 2011. We really thought we'd be in pre-Katrina jobs, the tourism-related industry, and then the recession hit and the oil spill hit. But the moratorium is man-made, and the moratorium, our industries are tourism, gaming, all small business related, seafood industry, and oil and gas. So these industries were directly affected by Katrina, by the recession, and now when things are on the upswing, the oil spill and all of those, the tourism, the fishing, the recreation, are affected by it, the seafood industry. And the moratorium is so much more than the oil and gas industry, because our neighbors in Louisiana frequently visit our area for tourism. And if they're not working, then that bleeds into another indirect industry that's impacted by the moratorium. So it's just the multiplier effect of who's being affected. And it's not just the coastline. Mississippi has nearly 400 businesses in the state, over 3,000 employees that will be affected, and the majority are small business.
You're right. It's not just the coastline. I would have to say to small businesses in Mississippi, and it's true all throughout the Gulf, the resilience shown after Katrina by the local folks, not necessarily the politicians, but the local people and local governments stepping forward. It's just amazing. It's a wonderful testimony in determination and resilience and recovery. Senator Landrieu and I were candidates for election in 2008 in September when that economic crisis hit, and it seemed like the stock market was coming down and everybody was losing their pensions, and I was getting myself acquainted politically on the coast there as a statewide candidate for the first time, and we had to face that devastation and try to wrestle with what the real causes were, and hopefully we've gotten the right answers. I'm not so sure about that in terms of our response. And then here comes this disaster. And you're right, it's not just the Gulf Coast counties, it's not just the Gulf Coast states, it's everybody. It's Americans from Maine and South Dakota. We all rely on this energy. Let me ask you this. I was on a panel the other day where a representative from another state talked about how they have more tourism than we might have in Louisiana and Mississippi. More beaches in some states than in Mississippi and Louisiana. Talk to us, if you will, any of you, about how we coexist. Tourism is a major industry in the 3 Gulf Coast counties of Mississippi. Is that correct, Ms. Nastasi?
It's absolutely correct.
And also the seafood industry, and also the oil and gas and petroleum industry, and I think it would be fair to say that people of the Gulf Coast are among the most environmentally sensitive and aware of anybody in the United States of America. Would you say that's a good characterization?
I would agree.
We have to coexist with all of those, don't we?
We do.
Would anybody else like to comment about?
I would if I could.
Yes.
I would if I could while they're thinking about what they, because you brought up an excellent point, and this record would be incomplete without it.